Hello ladies and gentlemen, PlayAsia supplied me with this copy of this game, so if you want to support me and the channel, use the link in the description to go and buy something, and there's also a coupon code you can use to save a couple of bucks off your order. You'll be helping me out and hopefully you'll be buying something good. Thanks for your support, enjoy the show. Well, time to do a little bit of ranting and roaming in Okinawa. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I'm here checking out the PS4 port of Yakuza 3. I have actually finished this game before, so thankfully I can tell you all about it. The thing is, I'd like to rant a little bit more, so we're going to keep this relatively short. There is like an hour of footage here, so I've got plenty of time to talk though at least, but yeah, this is a very recently released port, as it came out like the day before I record this, and you'll be seeing it the day after I record this. So, this is the part of the Yakuza Remastered collection, which is Yakuza 3 through 5, which they are releasing over the span of the next few months. They are going to release Yakuza 4 sometime in, I think, what was it, October, September, and then they're going to be releasing Yakuza 5 next year. Really interesting way of doing it, especially since it's the same sort of, like, pattern they did with the PS4 remasters over in Japan, and you can get the entire trilogy for 60 bucks. Combine the other pack that you can get on the PlayStation Network, which is Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2, for 50 bucks, this for 60 bucks, and then Yakuza 6 for like $19.99 because it's on that PlayStation Hits brand, which is basically their replacement for Platinum, and you can now get this entire saga for something like $110, $120, which is absolutely worth the time, but let's talk about Yakuza 3. Yakuza 3 happens directly after the events, well, not directly after the events of Yakuza 2, but it kind of starts there and then progresses forward in time. Kazuma has taken over the orphanage that he grew up in, and he is raising a few of the kids, obviously, but of course he gets dragged back into the Kamurocho seedy underbelly of the Yakuza business, not to mention a bunch of conspiracies involving foreign diplomats, domestic diplomats, and a couple of actually really cute characters, like these two here, Rikiya and the fat guy whose name I can never bloody remember, Mikio. Thank you, game, for actually putting the footage up right there and then. But yes, the overall plot of Yakuza 3 is actually a lot more reserved, because since Kazuma is actually taking care of all the kids, it means that you spend a lot of time playing with them, and you get to see a side of him that you very rarely get to see, especially past Yakuza 3, when he isn't the main spotlight of the series anymore, and most of the time is spent with other characters. This is the last game you actually get with him in full until Yakuza 6, and you get to see a lot of him just trying to be a parent, trying to be a father, trying to be just like a generally good man for the kids he's taking care of, and you very rarely get to see this side of him. Like, you get to see him helping people a lot in every single game, but in this game in particular, he spends a lot of time just relaxing, trying to solve the smallest of problems in relation to, like, some bigger problems you'll see in some of the side quests later on. And I really like this side of him, actually. It is really nice to see him trying to deal with more real-world problems rather than the more fantastical stuff. And it gives his personality the sort of roundness that it kind of needed. Like, before 1 and 2, I actually played the series in the original PS2 game first, then the second PS2 game, then this one. So, you didn't actually get to see that much of his personality in comparison, so it's nice to be able to see that here. They did actually do that up a bit with, like, Zero and stuff like that, but yeah, it's nice seeing him just being able to do the mundane things in life. Some people argue that you spend too much time with the kids and it kind of spoils the plot. I actually think the opposite. The game itself is actually pretty well balanced in this regard, especially in comparison to, say, like any other game in the series, where he's constantly diving straight into the problems with the Yakuza. It's nice, really, just to be able to sit back and relax a bit. Yakuza 6 is the same way, and I really like Yakuza 6 as well. It has the same sort of thing with him dealing with more mundane problems and showing the more real-world side of his personality when he's not trying to bust some heads, and it's nice after all the other games. With that said, the plot in this game is kind of ridiculous. It's definitely the most out there of the series, especially towards the end during some of the final fights. I don't know how the hell he gets away with it, but he does. And, well, it's just a bit silly overall, really. It's fine right up until the last couple of chapters, then it just kind of spirals out of control. Oh, and especially the middle bit, where you basically get a text dump for an hour of the entire plot being explained to you. I think at this point they really didn't have a good handle on what the Yakuza plots are meant to be. By Yakuza 4 and 5, they got this sorted out in 6 too, by the way. But yeah, the plot is just, I will admit it's a bit weird, and I guess I'm kind of looking back at it with nostalgia goggles, but I'd be lying if I said I disliked it. It's silly, it's kind of ridiculous, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a good story overall. There are some likable characters, especially the two buddies you've got following you around. And of course you've got Haruka and Kazuma just constantly, like, you know, interacting with each other, growing and learning from each other, you know, the things that this series is well known and loved for. It's all there. It's all still a thing. And of course, if you're like me and you've played this series in chronological order and you get to watch them slowly grow up with each other, well, it's always a nice thing. Very few series have given you the opportunity like this to just watch characters grow in pretty much real time when you think about it. It's not something you get to see in any kind of medium whatsoever, and Yakuza still remains special in this side of things, especially with Yakuza 3, where it's a more relaxed tone and pace, especially early on, so you have a little bit more time to just relax and go around with people. And just go around with people like Haruka. But anyway, it is a Yakuza game, and this is basically just going to be 50 minutes of me wandering around doing side quests in Okinawa. Okinawa is also a bit of a benefit, because you never actually see this area in any Yakuza game after this, and it's actually kind of impressive in that sense, because with the amount that this series recycles stuff, it's weird that we never saw this again, but still, I like Okinawa. You get to wander around it a lot, you get to do things like go fishing on the beach, there's a golf course, there's plenty of mini games to be played around, including the usual mainstays, and there's, of course, plenty of side quests to do. One of the main changes they actually made in the remaster, other than the 1080p 60 FPS, is the fact that the side quests are actually laid out on the map now, which is actually really nice, because it basically gave me all the content I needed to do this video without having to worry about going too much into the, what's the word I'm looking for? Without having to go much into the main plot. I did show a little bit of the main cutscene there, but sorry, cutscenes back at the beginning of this video, but more or less it's just us wandering around for a bit, doing quests, leveling up, doing stuff like that. Yakuza 3's gameplay is actually pretty simple, because they were still coming off the back of Yakuza 2 on the PS2. They did have Yakuza, not Kiwami, they did have Kenzan to build off of with Yakuza 3, so at least the game's not, like, it doesn't feel like there's a lack of polish, but with that said, it is definitely a bit light on the ground. It definitely feels like just a slightly polished version of Yakuza 2, and I mean the original Yakuza 2, not Kiwami 2, so yeah, you have to kind of get used to dropping back to this gameplay, because the last Yakuza game I played was Kiwami 2, with its physics-based combat and all that, and we're going back to the more stiff, but more flashy and higher pace of the original series combat. So, yeah, you have to kind of get used to dropping back to this gameplay, because the last Yakuza game I played was Kiwami 2, with its physics-based combat and all that, and we're going back to the more stiff, but more flashy and higher pace of the original series combat. So, yeah, you have to kind of get used to dropping back to this gameplay, because the last Yakuza game I played was Kiwami 2, with its physics-based combat and all that, and we're going back to the more stiff, but more flashy and higher pace of the original series combat. So, yeah, you have to kind of yeah, you do have things to equip like armor and weaponry that you can pull out at any time. You level up your 4 stats individually and they give you your extra abilities. There are also ones you can learn out in the overworld. Didn't actually unlock the was it mementos? I can't remember the exact turn of phrase they used for this. But it's basically you watch something stupid happen and create a cool move out of it. I haven't unlocked it at this point, but well, it's there. You can do it for extra heat moves and stuff like that. The whole heat system works exactly as you would expect. You build up your heat by attacking people. You can build it up a lot faster by getting drunk, which I do, and I just beat the shit out of everyone once I do. And once you do that, you can do things like hold people against a wall, attack them on the ground, use special objects and stuff like that in order to get special heat moves to go out. And it's great. It's as engaging as it's always been. Yakuza 3 is actually a bit weird, though. There was a certain point in this series where the combat was actually really difficult at points, and there is one fight in this video where I get absolutely smashed. Like, it's almost impressive just how badly I get my ass beat around the 25-minute mark, I think it was. But yeah, the combat in this game is actually surprisingly difficult even for a series veteran, because they are very aggressive, they are more than happy to repeatedly beat you against a wall, and there is very little you can do about it, at least this early on in the game. Even a little bit of good dodging won't help you out on the hard difficulty here. But yes, I do go through all the menus, and they haven't changed too much in the way of how the game plays. It's pretty much all as I remember. You can change a few neat settings, including English karaoke subtitles. They did actually redo a lot of the localization in this one, because I have recognized a few things, like they've changed what characters are referred to by. 1 or 2 of the lines are different in a way that I remember. It's definitely higher quality than it used to be. I won't argue that much. I guess the downside we have to talk about now is how they censored the remake. There are a couple of things going on here. Like, there is one quest that is just outright gone, and that is a quest where a transgender person chases you down the street. Which is a shame, because I actually really liked that quest. I know it's a weird thing to say, but like, this is Yakuza. This is where the weird and the insane always puts a smile on my face. Especially this prompt here. Hey, sweet cheeks. But I got to admit, I really liked the quest just because it was a fun sort of like chase down the street sort of quest they had going on that they actually use a lot of in the later games. And just the overall silliness of the quest was actually something that I just outright miss. It's not, well, I mean, I say that it's bad, and it is, but it's not as bad as it could be, mainly because they removed this from every version of the game. But if you want to see that original quest, you have to play it on the original PS3 version, which I actually own, funnily enough. There you go. There are a couple of other things missing too. There was a quiz game in the Japanese version of Yakuza 3 that didn't make it over here, and they just cut that entirely as well, which is a bit disappointing. That seems to be the majority of what's been cut. I don't claim to know the entire game back to front, and you'll probably need to ask someone who's more familiar with the game if anything's actually outright missing, but I doubt there's anything else outright missing. I don't think they'd be able to get away with that. I mean, they had a big enough backlash for removing the bloody quest that I just talked about. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed, but at the same time, considering that they didn't do it just for, like, us in comparison to, like, you know, giving Japan the quest and not giving us the quest, so it's hard to be completely frustrated. And considering this is probably going to be the version of Yakuza 3 that's going to be remembered, well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, the gameplay is a hell of a lot better because they upgraded the frame rate and just, you know, made it look a fair bit nicer. They didn't do much of a graphical touch-up overall for this one. I mean, you can see it on the back of Kazuma's jacket, especially when the camera gets up close and personal in cutscenes. It's clear that the texture is very clearly from a launch-era PS3 title, so there are some other things and textures like that, and the entire game could do with just a layer of anti-aliasing. When you're looking at objects in the distance and they start to devolve into a sort of pixelated mess, it's definitely something that could use a little bit of a touch-up. Like, just one, like, just like a level, a 2 times MSAA would do wonders, honestly. Or maybe even some, like, TAA. Surely you've got a lot of extra graphical power lying around thanks to the whole thing, right? Or maybe even just have it rendering 4K on the PS4 Pro, but I guess that's another thing. This is being played on a PS4 Pro on super sampling mode, but this game does not have any sort of PS4 Pro enhancements whatsoever, which is a little bit of a shame, but, well, if these ports ever come to the PC, which I really hope they do, just so that the people who have played Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 don't get left behind on this front, they'll be able to put it in 4K with, like, 4 times TAA anti-aliasing, and it'll be the smoothest Yakuza 3 yet. But this port does run perfectly fine, as far as I can tell. I've played several hours of it at this point, and the performance of it is just, yeah, it's more than fine. I haven't noticed any frame drops whatsoever. And the load times are pretty damn good as well, just there's very little in the way of, like, transitions between scenes. There's not much in the way of saving and loading being a problem. It's good, it's fine, it is... There's nothing wrong with the performance of this game overall whatsoever. So of course we had to move on to talk about the amount of content, and considering that I just spent an hour wandering around talking to people and doing just random things that I always enjoy, because Yakuza has always got this nice sort of separation between its main plot, which is always serious and never jokes around, and then you've got things like helping someone find their lost cat under the assumption that it's been a kidnapping of someone's daughter, of there being a haunted coin locker, of there being just like a simple quest where you have to help a father get some tall ice cream cones down the street to his family. The game never takes itself too seriously as soon as it gets out of the main storyline, and I absolutely love that. That's one of the main reasons everyone loves this series, and it's still on full display here. There is absolutely nothing to separate this game in this sense of the word from the previous titles and the titles that come after it. Admittedly, it probably is the lightest on content of the entire series at this point, because 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 are all on the later engine, and they all have like tons of extra content going on. Even like Kiwami 2 has a bunch of improvements on the game engine, including the ability to do things like wield weapons. And then after Yakuza 3, you've got 4 and you've got 5, which have a bunch of individual characters and a ton of, like, content across all of them. Then you've got Yakuza 6, which, while it might be, like, the least content heavy of, like, the entire series at this point, still has a good amount of variety in the brand new location, a bunch of extra new minigames, and just, like, you know, its general tone and pacing being different than pretty much every other game in the series, except maybe this one, to make up for it. This game, in general, is now the least advanced of the entire series, so I can imagine someone coming straight from Kiwami 2 straight to Yakuza 3 and thinking to themselves, this is really simple. And I wouldn't blame you for that, but, well, it's not really the game's fault, and they've done a good job at it does a good job at standing in with games like 4 and 5, but when you compare it to, like, 0, 1, and 2, it very clearly feels like, you know, a slightly less advanced game. So, I don't know how this problem is actually going to turn out. Are people going to play Yakuza 3, and are they going to be disappointed by the fact that the game's so simple and then miss out on 2 of the most content-heavy, and some say the best? It's debatable, but I'm not going to get into that argument one way or another. Best games in the series, or are they going to live through it? Are they going to enjoy Kazuma's tropical trek? Are they going to enjoy this sort of thing? I don't know. I'm not going to claim to know, but, well, even with that, I don't think that the game is anywhere remotely bad. It's still enjoyable. I do want to go through another run of it one of these days, but I have no time. I have to get Flashpoint done. I was struggling to get a fucking video done for today, which will be Friday when you see this video, because holy shit, I had the worst run of luck. And I want to rant about that for a little bit, but I'll save it, because there's still more to talk about with this. I said that the graphical element hasn't been changed much. Well, they have given it a few tweaks. Like, one of the things I didn't notice until I looked this up on the wiki is that the remaster actually has the chapter interludes that the later games have. That wasn't a thing in the original. I did realize that after I saw it. But yeah, the sound is absolutely fine as well, as far as I can tell. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything is present and accounted for as far as I can tell, even the karaoke. I did go and check out the Cabaret Club, that it is still there, you can manage it. Not entirely sure why they cut that out of the original PS3 version, but there you go. So, yeah, I still enjoy Yakuza immensely. This does include Yakuza 3. I won't say it's one of my favorite games in the series, but at the same time, I still enjoy it for what it is. It's a nice break from what makes Yakuza Yakuza, and it really does help you to appreciate just what it is good at, even though it is still good at it. I say that like it's, I say that like it forgets what makes the series great, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's still Yakuza through and through. It just helps you remember what's good about this series, and still being able to take a break from it at the same time is a good thing in my personal opinion. And well, considering that you can now buy two of the best games in the series and this one, which is like a good change on everything, for the price of a single retail release, which is probably going to change by the time Yakuza 4 and 5 come out. So even if you are still working your way through Kiwami or Kiwami 2 or even 0, God forbid. Yeah, it's still a really good time. The fighting is still great. Again, the frame rate bump really does help it out on that front, even if it is a bit of a bitch sometimes, because I am playing this on hard and I did get my shit kicked in. Ignore this like little thing going on here. It's me trying to get that key on top of the thing. It's annoying. I have to be just standing in the exact right spot, but okay. There is plenty of other stuff going on. There is buying and selling weaponry. There is mini games, of course, which I didn't show off too many. I actually don't show off any in this video, but they've got darts, they've got billiards, they've got mahjong, they've got gambling. They've got pretty much everything that makes Yakuza Yakuza, which is nice. The golf is actually kind of a pain in the ass because of the amount of times I have to redo a simple bloody 5-yard putt because you have to be really quick on the trigger with those ones, but yeah. I still enjoy Yakuza. I still enjoy Yakuza 3. It's a silly plot, and the kids show up a lot, and a lot of people don't like that, but I do like it, because you get to see a side of Kazuma that you don't usually get to. I enjoy his relationship with Haruka. I enjoy getting to see him in a more rudimentary day-to-day life. I enjoy just when it does get ridiculous, just how silly it does get. It helps you appreciate that just a little bit more about this series. The gameplay is just as good as it ever was, although again, still a bit, it is a little bit thin on the ground compared to things like 0, but, well, that's just how it goes.
Oi.
I'm gonna get my shit kicked in here. But yeah, I like it. And considering that you get this 4 and 5 in the same package, it is absolutely a recommendation. But obviously, you should probably go and play 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 first. Now I just need to hold my hands together in prayer, because I'm not a very religious man, but if this gets me bloody Yakuza Ishin localized, now is the time to do it, because I actually meant that more than one way. Now is the time to do it, because holy shit, if there would be a good time to localize Ishin, it would be right at the end of the release schedule for the remastered collection, because Yakuza Ishin, like, I'm gonna go look this up now. I'm pretty sure I know when Yakuza Ishin came out, but just for the purpose of, being correct about this, I'm going to look it up. So, right. Okay, so that's Ishin. Now, if I search for... I don't know why searching for Yakuza 5 put up Ishin again, but there you go. Yeah, that came out in 2012, and then Zero came out in... Yeah, okay, so... Yeah, Yakuza 5 came out before Ishin. So, at the end of 5, if they announce Ishin is coming out a few months after 5, that would be the perfect time to do it, because it magically manages to fit alongside the same chronology. For those of you who don't know, I have actually done a video on the Vita companion app of Yakuza Ishin, but basically, it's set as, like, imagine there is a stage play starring all of the characters of the Yakuza series, old and new, even ones that are dead, like some of the main villains, for example. Like, imagine all of those characters were still alive, and they did a stage play of ancient Japanese history. In the case of Yakuza Ishin, Kazuma is Sakamoto Ryoma, and he joins the Shinsegumi. And all of the other characters play parts in this sort of stage play retelling of Japanese history, and their personalities leak into the characters of Japanese history, while it's also got this ridiculous combat system where you use swords, guns, and of course fists, and it resembles a bloody Sengoku Basara game more than it does Yakuza. The combat system is brilliant. It's got... Look at how bad I got my shit kicked in there. I mean, good God. But, yeah. It's also got things like a dungeon crawling minigame. You can grow, you can grow plants on your farm. You have all sorts of, Japanese gambling to do. There are all sorts of ridiculous minigames and quests, of course. It's basically a full-blown Yakuza game, but in a historical period with the characters playing the historical characters. I want to play it in English so badly. If any time would get Yakuza Ishin localized, it will be at the end of this series' release cycle. So, Yakuza, not Yakuza, Sega, I beg you, please bring Ishin over. We can forgive you for Kenzan because that's already running pretty well in RPCS3 and there's a fan translation patch going for it already. We can forgive you for that one. We can forgive you for Dead Souls because the only thing that would improve with Yakuza Dead Souls would probably be the frame rate and the resolution. And considering that we've got RPCS3 as well, we can probably get that one working okay as well, considering that one had an English release. Ishin is the only one that's unaccounted for at this point. Please, for the love of God, localize it at the end of the remastered collection. I am begging you. With that said, I guess it's time for me to start ranting now. I really do want to rant a bit, and I've got plenty of time. I've been talking... How long have I been talking for? 28 minutes, and we've still got another half an hour on this footage, so I just want to rant for a bit. There were 3 games I wanted to do videos on before this point. The first game is Metal Wolf Chaos XD. I wanted to do a video on Metal Wolf Chaos XD because I've been interested in this game for years, and I picked up an original Xbox with the intent to use it to play Metal Wolf Chaos, and I never got around to it because I didn't have the bloody time. Well, the Metal Wolf Chaos XD port came out on PC, I say recently, but it was a few weeks ago at this point, and I bought it immediately. I wanted to play it. I wanted to do a video on it. The game never stopped crashing. I played the game for 2 hours and it crashed 4 times. Especially on one certain mission, which made me replay said mission like 3 or 4 times in a row. It really pissed me off. And this was on 2 different PCs, by the way. I played it on my GPD Win 2, and, well, it crashed there. And then I tried playing it on my desktop computer, where it crashed slightly less, but it still crashed at the very end of the mission that I was trying to do. So, I spent 2 hours replaying the same fucking 2 missions, because I'm an idiot, apparently. And I just decided, like, you know what, I even put out a tweet, and the bloody developers of the port replied back to me saying, I'm sorry, we hope we can solve your problems. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll leave it for a little bit, I'll give you a chance. But they patched it, and I tried to play the patched version. And when I opened up the patched version on my GPD Win 2, it said something along the lines of, this game will not work well on integrated graphics. Please set the graphics to a dedicated display driver. So instead of trying to fix the problems on integrated graphics on a game that actually ran pretty well on it, like, disregarding the crashes, even on like an M37Y30, the game managed to maintain 30 FPS most of the time. So saying that they were just going to, like, you know, neglect it instead of, like, you know, actually trying to fix it and make it more playable on more systems, they say to, what's the word I'm looking for? They say, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to make it so that you just get a little prompt when you start up the game the first time. And just for the purpose, I believe I looked at this before, but if I scroll down... Oh, look at that. They actually recommend dedicated graphics now. The last time I looked, this was not there. That's actually kind of frustrating. There were also a bunch of other problems too, like the sound was way off. Like some of the sound effects were extremely loud and some of the voices were really quiet. And some of, like, a lot of the text was actually really badly done. Considering that this game got delayed like a full month and they still managed to come out with this many problems, I don't know what the fuck they were doing. There have been a couple of bug fixes, but, I mean, outside of that, they haven't fixed all of the problems yet, and that's almost impressive considering how long they've had since launch. Not to mention that a bunch of the, my review's gone. That's weird. I wrote a review of it and then got a refund, and apparently my review is gone. That's a really bad sign. But yeah, I got a refund on the port. I couldn't stand it anymore. So that was game 1. Game number 2 was Ion Fury. For those of you who have been paying attention to the news... I'm not going to say it here because it'll probably get the bloody video demonetized as soon as I say the word. But then again, I've already said the word before in this video, so... Let me just put it this way. I can't, in good conscience, support what the developers have been kowtowing to. If you want to know what I mean by that, go look it up on something like Kotaku in Action, because the game's news media is not going to tell you the truth about what actually happened. So, there you go. The third game is literally a game called Dum Dum. I'm not even kidding. Like, after having bought fucking, after having bought, like, 3 stinkers in a row. Like, I bought Remnant from the Ashes, hoping that would be a good game, and ended up being inherently disappointed in it. Then I bought Metal Wolf Chaos before that, then I bought Ion Fury after that, and they all turned out to be, in actually relatively unique ways, kind of disasters. So, I literally bought a game called fucking Dum Dum. Because it's literally DUM-DUM. It's a sort of OS simulator game along the lines of Hypnospace Outlaw, but unfortunately it doesn't have that much in the way of flavor to it. So you've got your desktop interface, you use it to open things like applications and stuff like that, and through the efforts of, you know, going through things like mail and you connecting to someone in the building of the people who made the OS, I should say, with finger quotes, you go through a dazzling plot to try and stop something from taking over the world. It's very simple like that. I played it for 2 hours and I found myself being incredibly frustrated. A couple of things made sense. Like, what's a dumb thing for you? What's a, like... Okay, let me explain something else. So, the thing is... The entire plot of the game gets started off by you playing a game called Dum Dum, and it's literally a girl talking to you and saying, this is Dum Dum. Are you a Dum Dum? And then it has like yes, no, or I don't know. And the plot of the game starts out by you answering something multiple times. They give you a hint that you need to do this, by the way. It's not just something that you have to do, but they treat you as a Dum Dum, as in a dumbass, as in an idiot, as in a retard, because of the fact that you did this, despite the fact that you have gotten very clear and obvious, like, hints that you're supposed to do this. And this entire thing, like, they're constantly referring to the fact that you're a dumbass and you can't possibly figure out how to do it. Like, you know that how, like, if you've seen Stargate SG-1, you know there is a plot in one of the episodes where there's a replicated ship about to attack an Asgard home planet, and Thor brings along Major Carter because Major Carter is not as intelligent as him, and he says it in a way that's, like, obvious that he explains it in a way that we're bringing you along because you think of plots that we're too smart to think of. And in the case of Major Carter, it makes sense the plot they eventually come up with to get the replicators to stop attacking the planet. Because it's something that the Asgard would never do, and you had enough experience with them in order to know this, so it doesn't feel insulting. In fact, they poke fun at that in the Stargate episode, but it all feels like, you know, it all feels like something they would do, and they don't mean anything by it. In Dum Dum, it starts to feel a bit hostile with just how much they actually bring out the whole Dum Dum thing, and I was starting to get really annoyed by it even an hour in. And then they bring up this bloody arcade section where you have to guide this lady through this sort of, like, series of floors filled with lasers and shit. And it plays like a crappy mobile game from the 2000s. The reaction time is so slow, and just the overall process of the whole thing is incredibly long and frustrating. And I got incredibly frustrated at this point, and I was about to get a refund on it as well, thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm not going to be able to make this happen, am I? Well, then I found an exploit, which let me get through the section, but even after managing to get through the section and going just a little bit further, I found myself being so frustrated with it that I can't pick it up again without thinking that I'm not going to give it a fair review. So, yeah, that's like 3 videos in the span of a couple of weeks that I put relatively significant time into, considering that I wanted to, get videos and stuff done on them, right? I put significant time into all of them. Oh, I should point out, Melwolf Chaos XD actually corrupted my save game. So I had to play the entire thing again, because of course it fucking did, but yeah, that's like 3 games I was trying to play. And 3 games that I just failed to make videos on for one reason or another. And if Yakuza 3 hadn't come out, I wasn't sure what the fuck I was going to do, because I was busy working on Flashpoint, the curations had backed up, I had a lot of stuff I needed to get done, and even then I'm still kind of having to push it away with this video, but yeah. If Yakuza 3 hadn't released by surprise, you'd have no Friday video, because I've got basically nothing in the backups anymore, since when I got sick, I basically had to put out all the bloody backup videos I had, and it still wasn't enough, so yeah, I'm kind of in trouble. I'm honestly kind of frustrated by the entire experience, honestly. It's just... I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have put this on the end of a Yakuza 3 video, but I just find myself being rather frustrated at how things are going recently. Like, my view counts are down, my options for doing games are feeling like they're becoming more and more limited. I actually wanted to do a video on a game called bloody Nekopara, but I don't think it would be appropriate for this channel, but at the same time, I just find myself thinking, will anyone actually bother to watch this? Will anyone actually put in the effort to watch this video? And I find myself thinking more and more, no one's going to watch it, because my view counts have been, well, not great, ever since the Vita basically went on to, like, proper life support. No, like, real proper games coming out every couple of weeks, instead being delegated to every couple of months. Everything in between being bloody low effort Ratalaika ports, even lower effort sometimes U-ports, or Paugi themed puzzle games leave me with basically nothing to talk about. That's why I suggested the entire Vita top 10, top 100 thing again, because I legitimately have no idea what I'm going to do. I have so few games left to do videos on that I'm starting to struggle with finding things like that to do, and well, I'm hoping with the introduction of the top 100 video series that I'll have something to do at least until 2020. I want this to last until we can play the Utawara Ramono Prelude to the Fallen release. Although I seriously doubt that that's actually going to come out. It feels like a sort of like... They didn't bother to release Labyrinth of Coven and Refrain nearly a year ago at this point, but they're still going to be releasing the Utawara Ramono prequel in like 6 months? That doesn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't. The fact that they're actually doing it is just nuts to me personally, but... yeah. I want to last until at least that long, and I can probably make that happen, but there's going to be very few Vita videos in the meantime if I'm not doing that top 10 video series. So, yeah. Top 100 video series, I should say. Look, I should probably stop ranting, because I've got another video to record after this, and my throat is starting to hurt a little bit, so... I'm going to leave the rest of this gameplay going. You've got about 20 more minutes of it to watch, and... well, I was starting to get a little bit frustrated by the end of this footage, just because of how badly I was getting my shit kicked in. So I went and got drunk off my ass, and I ended up just absolutely beating some dude as the final bit of combat in the video, and I actually kind of appreciate it. But yeah... that was a look at the PS4 port of Yakuza 3. I do think it's a really well done port, despite its downsides, and I would still recommend it, just because I pray and I hope that they decide to localization at the very end, and basically bring an end to the Yakuza Golden Age, where they have more or less every single game that stars the titular Yakuza, well, not the titular Yakuza, but... basically, I pray and I hope that we have all of the games that have Kazuma in them in some form or another by the end of 2020. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.
らっしゃいませ。
いらっしゃいませ。
行くんだ。ほら。せい。せい。出るよ。ほら。しゃばな。
ええ。さあさあ。いらっしゃいませ。
おい。おら。おら。
申し訳ありません。